Okay, I'm talking to Asa Egoyan today. Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to talk to you again today. I've really
Yeah.
wanted to do a one-on-one interview with you for some time now. What you said something interesting right now. Please elaborate.
Well, no, I was looking at the list of interviews, and so it's just I think appropriate that I'm doing an interview with Mystic and Severe Radio because this film is certainly mystic and severe. So, like, I I feel
That's
like it's the perfect venue. So let's capitalize on mysticism and severity and drama and trauma and all those things that are kind of embedded in this movie. And I think
I
we're
love this.
off to a flying start, probably.
I love the tie-in. So I love this movie. And I actually, when I first saw it, I got to talk to you moments later,
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
was quite
Sure.
swept up. What do
Yeah.
you think it is? What's the synthesis of elements here that makes it such a powerful experience?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's layered on top of each other. Like, look, you're looking at a story that began in the Bible, the story of Salome. You're looking at this tradition of, all these writers that were fascinated by it, leading up to Oscar Wilde, one of the greatest dramatists of all time. You're leading up to one of the most incredible composers, Richard Strauss, who then sees this play and turns it into an opera. And then we do this production in 1996, and it's successful. It's been remounted several times, and then the Canadian Opera Company wants to put it on in 2023, and then I get this crazy idea to make a film around it, so that we're adding, to all these layers of interpretation and all of this history and exploration. And at the core of it is a really fascinating character. Like the Salome is just, the decision that she makes and this passion she feels, this crazy lust that, that drives her has obviously been the source of a lot of fascination, but a lot of that fascination like is male. So I wanted to kind of create this character where like Amanda and I, having worked with her on Chloe, which was such a powerful experience, like in terms of like just working with this amazing actress. So I wanted to have her embody a lot of these interpretations and come up with something of her own. And so that really gives the film a very particular tone. And it really, I think, creates this crazy journey for the viewer, right? Where they're kind of thrown into this swirl of emotions. And there's a lot of, subplots and drama, but at the end of it, it's her journey and what she's trying to process. So we're actually, you know, um, we're processing this with her. Uh, and it's like in most films, it's structured around the revelation of what the trauma is. In this case, it's really clear from the beginning, and she's really open about it. People around her seem to understand what her attachment to this production was as a younger person. But as she's remounting it, she goes into this space, which is very unusual, and we're along for the ride. So and I think the tone of the opera has something very unusual. It's crazily it's a revolutionary piece of art. So I'm reacting against that as well. Like it kind of drives the whole piece. It's buried underneath every moment in the film. Uh, is this is this work which emerges through the soundtrack because we're using the original soundtrack as score at times, but it's a crazy brew. That's what I'll say. It's like a crucible of a lot of different emotions and feelings and experiences and interpretations bubbling to the surface. And I can promise people that it's unlike any other film they'll ever see.
Oh, will 100% agree with you there. And I think also there's a very direct thing about this film where it's sort of the dangers of putting your life into your art and then your art coming into your life. I would love to hear about that from your own perspective.
Oh, there's a ton of stories. Yes, it's the strange game we play. We think that we are uh, processing things through art, and we are, but we're also opening doors that may have been closed for a reason, and we are touching on nerves, and we're sometimes we are re-traumatizing And at that point, it becomes a question of whether or not that's a smart thing to do. But once you feel that tug, you can't really prevent it. You're sort of drawn to that. So here's the question about this. You know, the plot of this is that when she was a young woman, Amanda's character, Janine, she was an intern on this show like 15, 20 years ago. And the original director was this very charismatic person that she had an affair with, and he's since died. And he's said in his will that if it's ever remounted, she has to be the director. And the question that the film poses is whether or not that's a gift that he's offering her, or it's a curse. Like does he feel that she has the right to explore this material that comes from her own background, because he was quite vampiristically taking these stories from her, putting the into the production. So, what does it mean for her to now go back to that time in her life, to go back to this relationship with this person who's no longer there, to go back to her own family history, and then to deal with all the dynamics of the opera company and the agendas that are being placed on her. So, it's a crazily intense journey she goes through. And we happen to have like one of the finest actresses around to kind of like lead us through that, right? But it's as I say, it's quite singular and unusual.
Oh yeah.
Like it does raise that question that like what are you prepared to sacrifice in the making of art, like when like how much do you expose of yourself, and what are you prepared to have to defend and deal with in that process.
So the film has did this festival circuit for quite some time. It premiered at TIFF in 2023.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been the longest period of time I've had to wait for a release. And, honestly, it's just because it's really there aren't as many screens as there used to be. And you're waiting for the right US deal, and you're right, you're waiting for a number of things to come into play. Um, and it is it feels like a long time ago. But it's funny, I was just at a screening and the film just suddenly, oh yes, this is as fresh as it's ever been. I'm glad we are able to wait to do it at the right time.
How satisfying does that feel now that all this time has passed? Is it even sweeter?
I can't say it's sweeter. It's just I'm happy it's finally getting out. And I'll tell you what is odd is that when you are because of the time that's passed, you start working on other things. So you have to go back to that period. So there's this momentum that happens when you're releasing right after a festival run. But when there's a bit of space, you actually have time to look at it a different way. And so I now understand how unusual the film is. I'm not quite sure if I would have been able to appreciate that in speaking about it when I was just fresh off of it. It seemed that there was something kind of organic about putting the two worlds together. And now that I look at the film with some distance, I go, wow, that was a really outlandish thing to propose, like to bridge these two worlds. But the result is something which is very singular, I would say. Yeah, like I've never seen anything quite like it. And I'm the other thing I can totally appreciate is her performance. Like Amanda's performance is really um I don't think I've seen that particular character on screen before, going through what she's going through.
All right. Well, Asim, thank you so much for your time. It was such a thrill to have a one-on-one interview with you. Before I let you go, though, one more question. If you're programming a triple bill of your filmography and Seven Veils is included, what are the other two films?
I think the most obvious ones would be Exotica and Sweet Hereafter, because the original opera was presented between those two films. So in a way, and this idea of women dealing with trauma kind of like fits between those two movies. I think I just like the idea of like it was presented in 1996. Exotica was 94. Sweet Hereafter was 97. And I remember when we were remounting this at the Houston Grand Opera. It was while I was editing Sweet Hereafter, so there was a lot of interplay between those two productions, and I mean, tonally very different, right? I mean, you can't get more extreme, but I would say that that would be the triple bill for me.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you.